Yes, well, hello there, and I do hope you're all well. Yes, this is the second part to Prime Minister's Questions and Evasions with Theo Usherwood and James O'Brien. Now, usually there's only one of these because after you've had the ridiculous PMQs with Bodge just dreaming up questions that he thinks he's heard from other opposition MPs, usually get the absolutely, ball tickling questions. You'll get Andrew Jenkins, the mutton head of Marlene Outwood, jumping out. Say, will my right honourable friend agree with me that at the bottom of my street it's rather a busy road? We get the odd one or two horse and carts that pass by, and because we have a number of kids on our street, do you think we should have a pelican crossing? And then she'll sit down, feeling very pleased with herself, and then Bodge will jump over and say, well, yes, I thoroughly agree with my right honourable friend. She's absolutely back on the money. Our kids should have safe roads to cross, and especially when a runaway horse and carts, blah, blah, blah. And why doesn't the leader of the opposition come up with different questions like these and say how wonderful I am and blah, 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 and all that fucking crap? But this one was very, very different because he was getting it from all sides. He got it from William Ragg. He's a Conservative MP. He had a very, very interesting question about these new lockdown rules coming in. He got it from Cat Smith about a party. But the best one came from Rosanna Allen Khan. She talked about a personal experience about the what's been going on over the last years, and then she asks him a very, very personal question. But the thing is, this is the reason why I always like listening to Theo, because he will explain something about the atmosphere as she asked that question. He will tell you why you should pay particular attention to the atmosphere as she asked the question, and it's very, very interesting.
It's 12:48, and this is a vote of confidence in Theo Usherwood's political journalism. We have postponed Ben Elton's visit to the programme in order to pick over the brains of our political editor, because PMQ's continued to be quite engaging even after the normal period of excitements had passed.
Yes, I just want to bring you back to a question that was put by William Ragg. Now, William Ragg is a Conservative backbencher. He's on the right of the party, and this refers. I picked this one out specifically because of those Dominic Cummings tweets about Boris Johnson potentially switching to Plan B. That's the introduction of working from home again, reintroduction of working from home again, and then vaccine passports for large venues. Dominic Cummings saying this was a dead cat army. And that seems to be the view amongst Conservative backbenchers on the right of the party who are particularly resistant to any new measures being introduced. This was the question from Mr. Ragg.
Mr. Speaker, there are media reports of a cabinet meeting and press conference this afternoon to initiate COVID Winter Plan B without reference to this House. COVID passes will not increase uptake of the vaccine, but will create a segregated society. Is my right honourable friend, the Prime Minister, aware that very few will be convinced by this diversionary tactic?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, no decisions will be taken without consulting the Cabinet.
Now, we understand there is possibly a Cabinet meeting first at about 3:30 before the Prime Minister. We also getting reports is due, but we haven't had it confirmed yet.
He's not. I mean, this is the shopping trolley stuff that Cummings talks about, isn't it? Really, because he's not going to get this past Cabinet.
Well, he's putting it onto Cabinet in that answer, isn't he? He's saying, well, I'll make this decision when I've spoken to the Cabinet. Yeah. But, of course, the reason he's giving that answer is because William Ragg and like-minded Conservative MPs on the backbenches are livid about the idea that the Prime Minister is going to try and get out of this hole he's got into with the Christmas party in Downing Street in number 10 Downing Street by introducing more restrictions on Mr. Ragg's constituents. And that's clearly annoyed him, and it'll have annoyed many other within that caucus of the Conservative Party, and it will come down to a vote in the House of Commons if he wants to get it through. And Boris Johnson is out of political capital right now. There was also, and you mentioned there, speculation that had been put forward about a party in the flat on November the 13th. In number 10, actually, the flat's above number 11. To remind listeners, London was in lockdown and any indoor parties were completely prohibited. Indoor gatherings were completely prohibited. Cat Smith, the Labour MP, asked the Prime Minister whether that accusation was true.
Gosh.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the Prime Minister tell the House whether there was a party in Downing Street on the 13th of November?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, no, but I'm sure that whatever happened, the guidance was followed and the rules were followed at all times.
That was Boris Johnson there saying the rules were followed at all times. He started, of course, I should say, by denying the fact there was a party, but then switched to this line.
Yeah, because he's not allowed to tell untruths in the House of Commons, is he? That can come back to...
He can't intentionally tell untruths.
Exactly.
And stay in the confines of the ministerial...
Can I do another one where you speculate slightly? I mean, how likely is it that Carrie Symonds threw a party on the day that Dominic Cummings got shown the door, knowing what you know about the inner workings?
Well, the two didn't get on, that's fair to say. They weren't... There was obviously...
It's incredible, really, that our country's been brought so low by a sort of feud between the man who put Boris Johnson in Downing Street and his current wife.
Yes, that's... And of course, because of that feud, Dominic Cummings has been on the sidelines with huge amounts of information from his time in Downing Street and used that information at sensitive points over the last year, since, of course, 13 months since he left number 10, left the fold within number 10. But also, I think this goes beyond the inner infighting between Carrie Johnson and Dominic Cummings and Lee Kane and all of those characters, because, of course, the point that Labour MPs like Rosanna Allen-Khan are making is that there was a real impact as a result of the lockdowns last year, indeed the lockdowns that went into the first half of this year, that so many people, including MPs, were feeling.
Last Christmas, while we were in lockdown, millions of people were unable to be with their families. Thousands of people waved through their care home windows at loved ones, wishing them a Merry Christmas from the side of the road. People died without that last touch from their daughters, their sons, their wives. Working in intensive care, I wept behind my mask as 3 children, talking to their dying mother on an iPad, begged her to wake up. Countless children now growing up without parents, while parties were held at number 10. Mr. Speaker, this is disgraceful. This is an insult to everyone who followed the rules. It is an insult to everyone who wasn't allowed to say their final goodbye. This happened on the Prime Minister's watch. So my question is very simple. How does the Prime Minister sleep at night?
Never alone. 12:55 is the time. What a way to run a country. The hatreds, tears and tantrums behind the ousting of Dominic Cummings revealed in the victory party thrown by Carrie Symonds to celebrate his humiliating departure. November the 14th, 2020, in the Mail on Sunday. Glenn Owen and Dan Hodges having their bylines on that story. So that one ain't going away either, is it, anytime soon? No,
this one is going to continue to run. And I think what was interesting, particularly about that Rosanna Allen-Khan question to the Prime Minister, is that there was no heckling. So usually when an opposition MP is delivering, a Labour MP is delivering a really tough question for the Prime Minister, the backbenchers on the opposite side, the Conservative backbenchers will, shout, heckle, do everything they can to try and knock that MP out of their stride, to try and, in effect, dampen the impact that question has happened. But as you heard there, the Tory benches were quiet. Boris Johnson didn't have that support from his own side.
Well, yes, exactly. How well does he sleep on a night? Probably very soundly, and and as James O'Brien said, won't be on his own. But because of a simple reason, he only cares about what's best for himself. This is a man who, while his wife was in hospital getting cancer treatment, he's getting wanked off by his mistress on a settee between two yellow cushions, saying, look at me, I'm a custard cream." And so, why would he care? And like when Keir Starmer talked about that woman whose mother had passed away and she was unable to visit her, I think I can't quite remember what she was suffering, but she'd passed away, and she was not being able to visit her, and it just went straight over his head. And accused the Keir Starmer of political point scoring. Yeah, the king of political point scoring is accusing the leader of the opposition of political point scoring, and he did the same with Ian Blackford, political point scoring. Well, wake up, Bodger. That's the name of the game. That's politics for you. Get over it, you big fucking fat snowflake. But as I said, when it came to Rosanna Allen Khan's question, deathly silence. There was no, as Theo said, nobody trying to put her off. And I think he's got a point there. I think he's got very little political capital on the backbenches and around him, and they were deathly silent. And that was very, very interesting. But anyway, guys, what do you think? Right, I shall leave the video here, but I shall wish you a wonderful weekend, and until the next time, I shall bid you farewell, and take care, and see you Monday.